Have you ever considered the impacts of your past to your present, or ever considered just how connected your life is with others? Hello, I'm Naomi, the host of Letters from the Chosen podcast. In this podcast, I share key moments from my childhood of how I went from life in rural West Africa to life in the United States. And I hope that by sharing my story, you get to see just how intricately involved God is in the details of our lives. In each episode, I hope you will take the time to reflect about your own past and be inspired to share your own story. Please share any insights you gain and let's grow together. I look forward to you joining with me each week. Let the story begin. Mother loves. It was dinner time. We were sitting out front in our courtyard, my grandmother, my mother, my sister, and I. We all lived together in one of the rooms of our family house in our rural Ashanti town. I loved my hometown. Everyone knew you, and you knew everyone else. Most of my relatives were also within walking distance, which was really nice because your cousins were only a step away. Our house was shaped like a rectangle with a low roof. That's the best way I can think to describe it and give you a kind of mental picture of what our home looked like. We also had a pretty courtyard with a tree that bloomed red flowers. That tree is still there to this day. Each family had a room in a section of the house. We had a very tiny room for all of us, and my grandmother had a small bed in the room, but the rest of us, well, we slept on the floor. From my understanding, she was my grandmother on my mother's side. Now, it's really common for relatives to live together in our culture and to live in very close proximity to one another. Family is very, very important in our culture. We honor our family, and there's a huge desire, even a weight, to honor your family and make them proud of you. We also tend to live together to help each other survive. Even with very little income, you could have much because you had the help of your family. Well, I want to tell you a little bit about my mother. I have to warn you that I know very little about her, but what I do know, I hope it brings a little light into where I came from and who I came from. My mother's name was Elizabeth Asante Achan. When I was fully grown, I found out that she had been a teacher. I was so amazed when I found out this fact. You see, I'd only seen my mother struggle and work to help us to survive. That finding out that she had been this great teacher amazed me and painted a whole new picture in my mind of who she was. Even more, when I had grown up, I had also grown up to become a teacher. I realized that this woman that had had such a small part in my life had had a huge influence on who I would become years later. And I had more in common with her and a greater connection than I could have ever imagined. So in the back of my mind, I wondered what happened. How did she end up in this situation? Did she stop teaching when she met my father or when she had children? I know very little about her story, and I wish I knew so much more and that I had some answers to those questions that still linger in the back of my mind. I was the youngest of her children. Around this time, I was about 6 years old. My older sister, Akos, was 10. There's actually 3 of us in total. But our oldest sister, Sister Fia, had married a man in the military and had moved out. There's another individual in my life, and you were probably thinking about him, my father. He didn't live with us either. Now, if you thought I knew very little about my mother, I know even less about my father. I was told that he traveled for work, and the last place that he was in was Togo. So I never really knew him because of these travels, and I only have one existing memory of him. Yet there was a deep desire in me at that age to know my father, an even deeper desire to have him a part of my life, especially when the unexpected happened. I'll tell you about that later. So I have no idea how he met my mother or what their relationship was like. I didn't even know what his name was until years later when I finally asked the ghost and she told me his name is Kweku. So seated in a semicircle was the four of us awaiting our humble dinner. My mother had made some sort of stew. Most likely it was peanut stew. If you don't know what peanut stew is, it is delicious. It is similar to a soup made out of ground up peanuts, and you can eat it with chicken or you can put vegetables in it, and then you can dip it with rice or with something we call fufu, and it's delicious. My mother filled a bowl and handed one to my grandmother, then to my sister. I remember my mother passing a bowl to me, but I didn't want to eat it because I was afraid of whatever was in that bowl. You're probably wondering why I was refusing this delicious food. Was my mother a terrible cook or was she putting poison in the food? No. See, my grandmother had something wrong with her chin, and sometimes it would drip. I'm not sure if it was a wound or something due to a health condition, but I was afraid that night that there was some of the drippings in the stew when they cooked. So the bowl sat untouched while everyone else ate. My mother did not eat. Once everybody had finished up eating, she noticed that the bowl still sat untouched. Finally, she grabbed the bowl and ate. I didn't know the magnitude of that moment until later. When it was time for bed, I remember curling up next to my mother. I would be nestled up in her arms off of the cold, hard floor. A ghost would be asleep on the other side. I was safe, safe in my mother's arms. Years later, when I learned what love was, this was the memory of this dinner that came flooding to my remembrance. It came back in the most unexpected way. You see, for a good portion of my life, I grew up doubting whether I was really loved. I felt more like a burden than a blessing, and it was a weight that I carried. I remember that weight being lifted once I learned what love was. I learned that love meant giving up. That means giving up of your wants for the needs of others. This idea of what love is based on the scriptures. In John 3:16, it states, "For God so loved the world that he gave up his one and only son." So that's how you can know someone truly loves you. They'll give up of their wants for your needs, and they'll be willing to make that sacrifice because their heart is for you. And if I ever wondered if my mother loved me, well, there was no doubt. She worked, she cooked, and she made sure that everyone else ate before she ate. So does mother love? Mother loves. My mother loved me.